Okay, I'm here. I'm here to talking to Cameron to talk about his WA racing service and the selection processes that he goes through for his WA racing service. Hi, Cam.
Hi, how you going, Stephen?
Very well. And yourself?
Yeah, no, very well, thank you. Thanks for taking this time for me this evening.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at a couple of horses that you've selected in the past, and take us through the processes.
Yeah, I thought this would be a good idea as for a first look at for a lot of you guys at the way I do things. Because these are ones that won, and two horses that I backed in recent months that won, and where I was quite different to the market, and to sort of show the way that this process works and this method works, so that they can sort of see where the strength is here, and why it is a good method to use, and why it's a good method to use, and a way to find some of those runners that the market does miss, and to also find ones that the market might not have missed but might not have priced short enough and things like that. Basically, why the rating method is a really good way to sort the form out. Yeah, so I thought we'd go through two horses, obviously in WA, that were in recent times that sort of display that quite well.
Okay, so let's crack on.
Yep, sure. Well, let's start with this one. This was Zatorio, who won a little while ago. What was the date? Does that mean the date's just disappeared off my screen there, but it was just a few weeks ago. And he was if you can see on my screen, you can see my mouse that's moving around there now. He had 3 starts in his career. Each line here is one run in this horse's career. So this line here was the horse's first run back in April 2018, when it just rated an 80. This column here is their ratings column, and that's what I compile. The ratings are the backbone of the form method, because they are a numeric representation of how well that horse went that day. On my rating scale, every one point here that you see is worth half a length, so 2 points or a length, obviously, as well. This horse on debut didn't do a great deal, only rated 80, ran 5th, beaten 3 lengths, wide throughout, says the stewards report. The video comment here says that the horse was difficult to load, and obviously it did a bit wrong. It went around a $9 chance there. Up here you'll see the comment, made steady ground 3 wide down straight, held up at times. So it's sort of gone okay, but obviously a bit raw. The line there, it went out for a spell, had a couple of barrier trials, came back and only went 82 in its first up run at Belmont on a soft 6 over 1300. And the video comment again, you can see there, held up, turned to the 200, couldn't quicken near inside once clear over 1300 meters. So at this point, you're not really wanting to back it much until it sees something, until it shows you something, until you see something. And then there's a $6 chance in its next run at Northern and Maiden, obviously dropping in class from Belmont. Video kind of 5th 6, 2 wide, peeled 5 wide, ran on strongly, racing very greenly, edge clear late. I watched the replay; it was a nice win. And one of the hallmarks of the ratings is if a horse's maiden win is really quite indicative of what they're like. So you can sort of really track them and trace them in their history from their maiden win through their career and work out how they go. And horses sort of tend to move in these 5-point levels from their maiden win. And so you're thinking to yourself, well, if this horse is good, then it gets to a 99 from here as its next level, like if it came to Town or something like that, which it obviously did because it was at Belmont. And if I just go over a little bit, what I'll show you over here, as soon as my screen catches up, this laptop is slow compared to my normal computers. This Q figure here that I'm just pointing at there, that stands for quality. That's for those who've read Don Scott's books. That's where I've got the Q from. Quality as far as what was this race like compared to a normal race of that class at that track. In this case, a normal maiden at Northern. And that one was positive of 2.8, which means it was 2.8 points better than an average maiden at Northern. The start before was plus 5.8, but he didn't go any good that day anyway. But so what that means is that he went about a length and a half better than what a normal maiden goes at Northern. Now that's significant because that's information I have that the market, well, some people in the market will have, but most of the market won't have. Most of the market will not have, worked out this horse's class and time and sectional ratings like this, and so they'll have not really. They'll say, "Oh, it's a Northern maiden, fine. He's come to Town now. He'll be a bit outclassed." But he went better than a Northern maiden, even though he only won by half a length. The time and sectionals were good. And when I watched the replay and saw that he hit the line strongly, I thought to myself, well, this horse is not, he's not finished. This is not his top. You know, I didn't want to project him all the way to 99 because I'm not sure that he's going to do 99. But as you'll see there, I gave him 97 in the race and thought, well, I can comfortably give him 97 because I think he can improve. He's got a good rider in Jason Whiting. And that, if you see over here, 490, that meant that I had him a $4.90 chance in the race. He went around about $10 and Julie came out and won the race. And it's that kind of improvement that you can forecast because you know what that maiden was worth. That is the strength of the ratings. Because I can say that was a 94, and I can say, well, he won from watching. If I watched thousands and thousands of races, I've watched that and said, well, that horse is not finished. He's ready to go on. He's ready to improve. He only had 13 days off between the two runs, so he was obviously fine. And it's just basic. You just say, well, he can improve. He's only having his fourth start of his career, his third run this prep. It's natural improvement, and he did. And he came out and won the race. And the market missed it because the market saw Northern Maiden, and this is Belmont. You know, it was only midweek Belmont. It wasn't Saturday, but they saw that and thought, well, he's not going to. You know, that's a bit out of his depth, and that's one of the things the market misses. And that's sort of a good way to show what the strength of having the ratings is because they line it up. It's a method to make sure that you can line up one horse against another and work out, you know, who's the best horse in the race. I'll just go across this sheet over here now just to show you something else. Again, this is loading slowly because my laptop's very slow and our video is slowing it down further. The favourite in the race was this number 2 Distant Trilogy. So if I go to the top and go down to Distant Trilogy, oh, it's not going to do that. It doesn't want me to load the macro. Hang on. See if I can get to the top the manual way. And I'll go down to Distant Trilogy and show you it. And so we can compare its form to the winner and see what its figures were like in comparison. Yeah, sorry about this. It's just loading slowly. That's the top horse. And Distant Trilogy, who went around a $3 favourite. Here it is here. Okay, so Distant Trilogy, I gave 97 to, as you'll see there. Just scrolling down, it'll load up in a sec. Yep. And you can see, starting with its ratings down the bottom of the screen there, that it had gone 93 back here on debut at Bunbury, winning its maiden, and it had progressed in its 5-point pattern basically by going up to 97. You know, it's gotten to somewhere near its best. And then here, first up from the spell, this prep had gone 93. So as you can see, there wasn't much between them on figures. This horse was giving weight to the other one as well, but there wasn't much between them. It's got 93 first up. It's got a best of, you know, I'd be thinking to myself as I'm looking at this horse has got a best of 97, 98. So that's where it sort of shows you, well, the market had a lot between them, but on my figures, I didn't think there was as much. Now, if we go to the other horse, this was a bit of a different one in a way. This was Molly 200 winning at Albany on the 14th of December. Excuse me. Now, again, this is sort of about the horse's patterns and what it can do. If we go back to the start of its career here at Mount Barker, where it won its maiden leading. So led, kicked, video comment says led, kicked, clear into straight, held onto line 92. Now, so you think it went around $17, you can see here that day. So the market wasn't ready for it, didn't really think it was going to go any good. This figure here is another little tool we've got in this column AO, this M rate. Now that's M rate stands for market rate. So that is a method I have of turning the horse's SP, in this case $17, into a rating, basically saying, well, what did the market think that the horse was going to do that day? Now, the market thought the horse was going to do 79, which is a very low figure, obviously. It was wrong. The horse came out and won and went 92. And then second start, you can see the market caught up. Look, the market rating jumps from 79 up to 95. All of a sudden, they're saying, oh, no, this horse is a little bit better than we realized. And it didn't do 95, but it went okay, going 93, went out for a spell. It got to 93, 92 there in its next preparation after changing camp for a few starts. It's changed camp a few times, but then again up here in its next preparation got up to about its 92. And then for Samantha Faithful, she got it here, and it didn't do anything in 2 runs for her. Her first 2 runs, it didn't do anything, but she put it out for a spell. So you're thinking to yourself, well, something was amiss. It didn't go any good. Something was wrong. She spelled it, and it was only spelled for 61 days. She spelled it, and then it comes back and does 93. So it's got back to its original form. You still think to yourself, it's lightly raced enough. Maybe it'll do a 97 at some point. You look at the video comment, slow out, last to turn, run on strongly, working clear 5 wide down straight, flew late. Now, this was at Narrogin. You see over here in column B, this was at Narrogin over 930 metres. Now, for those who know WA racing, Narrogin is an on-paces track, railers track. It's tight to turn, a short straight. You've got to be, if you lead, it's a massive advantage. So for this horse to come from 8th and to run on, be beaten only 2.3 lengths after missing the start of a 9:30 at Narrogin is a pretty good run. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, it's up to, 1,234 metres here at Albany this day. I'm thinking, well, it's going to love the extra trip. And in the past, it's been on pace. So if it can begin with them and race with them, it can go better. It's 93, maybe it'll do it's 97. So I bumped it up to 95 and had it a $5.70 chance. And it went around $13. It was a bit longer earlier too. And then, and this day it led, just kept going and led all the way. And the market just missed it. Market missed it because the robots missed it as well. And I suppose because it had 2 poor runs for Samantha Faithful, and then its first up run is when you look at it, it's just a 5th over 9:30 at Narrogin, and that's not great form to recommend. But the fact is, it's only beaten 2.3. It was a good rating race. It's rated 93, and it made up good ground. All those things say, well, here's a horse that's found some form. And obviously something was wrong when it was with Samantha Faithful's first 2 runs, as I said, and she gave it 61 days off, and then whatever was wrong with the horse has been put right. And she's come back. It went around $61 that day, M rate of 80. And so that's another reason why the robots have opposed it. They're all about their SP profiles, and this 80 here would have turned a lot of those robots off. And yet it's run really well. And you say, well, upon deeper analysis than just line of best fit kind of robot analysis, that this horse is potentially going to do something better than it has been doing. And sure enough, came out, led all the way, and won the race.
Okay.
So that's sort of showing you 2 examples, I suppose, of where the ratings tie in with traditional. Yeah, well, I mean, it is traditional form analysis, but it's a bit more modern than traditional form analysis because you're really coupling up a lot of different things at the same time. And you speed maps and that kind of thing as well to sort of try to work out. I mean, the ultimate thing we're trying to do here is trying to predict what's the likely figure you think this horse will do today, and therefore what kind of a winning chance do you think it is? I only had this horse 3rd pick in the race, priced at $5.70, but my top pick was priced at $4.70 or $4.60 or something. So I didn't have much between them. And obviously at $13, you're going to be at a price of $13, you're going to want to be on the one that's 3rd pick at $5.70 rather than your top pick being favourite at $3 or whatever it was. So that's sort of how how 2 good examples of how ratings can show you something that the market is missing with just traditional sort of Herald Sun type form guide analysis.
Okay. And so when it comes to you were just talking about comparing, you had 2 horses that were, you had closely rated together. When it comes down to it in a normal situation, how do you make that selection?
As far as which one to back?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's odds dependent. I don't go too far down my list. If I price something 30 to 1 and it's 60 to 1, I'm not backing it because pricing is still, at the end of the day, pricing is a guide. It's an inexact science. We can't think that we're good enough to actually be able to discover the true probability of a horse winning a race. I mean, we can discover the true probability of a roulette ball falling on a certain number. They can work out every possible combination in blackjack. You can work out when you've got pocket aces what your chances are of winning a hand given an even deck in poker. But those things are known quantities. We don't have, as in all of the combinations, all the possibilities are known. We don't have that in racing, and that's one of the great things about it for mine is that this is not a completely known quantity, a horse race. What it is a set of flesh and blood beasts ridden by another flesh and blood beast around a racetrack with no real rules except to not knock one another over and no set sort of no lanes. You know, it's not an athletic race where you stay in your lane. So there is a large amount of chaos, as far as predictability in a horse race, a large amount of chaos as far as what actually happens in the horse race itself. And so there is absolutely no true probability when it comes to a horse race. So pricing is inexact. Pricing can only ever be as good as we can try to make it without it being complete. And so it's not something where you say, well, I've got this thing $4. I will therefore take $4.01 because that's value, because we don't know for sure. So what I will do, and that's why you don't, if you price something 100 to 1, I'm not going to back it at 200 to 1. And so I only look at my top few, as do most punters. I only look at my top few, and I'll back. I'll be a bit more lenient if I've got something clear. For example, I'll be less sort of dictatorial about what price I take. If I've got something, say $2.50, I priced it, and I've got it well clear, and it's $2.40, I'm going to take the $2.40. It's just, I'm not going to be such a stickler to say, oh no, I've got a $2.50 because I've got it miles clear. If the ratings are right as they are, then if I've got it well clear, then all being equal, it should win the race. So you don't sort of say, oh no, I've got to be an absolute stickler to this $2.50. It's clear, you back it. But I don't take odds on it. Well, don't intend to anyway. But in a case like this, there was nothing clear. I had a few key chances in the race. A few, as I said, my top three were within $1 of each other. And so in this example, it's more the case you say, well, I'm not going to take anything that's under my odds, obviously, because I've got a pretty even race. But if I've got something 570 third pick and it's $13, then it's a no-brainer. Of course, you can back it. So it is a case by case and race by race kind of scenario, and each race is different too. Like there's a race the other day that I did the race, and they were just really terrible horses, and I had something as an overlay, but it was a bad horse as well, and the favourite should win, and so I just stayed out of the race. It's because there's too many unknowns. So it is a sort of a case by case kind of example as to what I do on a given race, but in the case of one like this, where it's 570 and 12, well, it was actually $16, 15 to 1 earlier in the day, started $13. I mean, that's an obvious one that just stands out and must be backed. But in respect of how I choose them, yeah, as I say, I sort of have two ways. As I say, if they are well clear, if I have them, a couple of lengths clear, or a couple of points clear, I should say, a length or so more clear than the rest, and they're backable, then I want to be on them because they just have an advantage. My method indicates they have an advantage, and you've got to back your method in. If I don't have the race clear and I think there's many chances, then I'm looking for value. So that's sort of the most basic way I approach it anyway.
Okay, that's great. And I think we can leave it there, as that covers your selection method for those two very well.
Yep, no worries. All right, well, thanks. And remember that also with the product, some of your listeners will be also subscribers to Mark Roden's Sydney service, and Mark and I work together on the same database, so we maintain the same database together, sort of in partnership, so what Mark's, for those who are subscribers to Mark's service, what you get with his service is the same as what you get with mine on WA Metros, where you get all the prices plus the suggested bets, etc. So people who want to do their own stuff outside of my suggestions, obviously they can. There'll be roughies in there that they'll back that I haven't suggested and things like that, and then prices change through the day. There's some where I might not suggest they're a bet earlier in the day, and they drift out and they become a bet, and you keep your eye out for ones like that as well. If you're around to do it. But because you get all the full prices, you get the opportunity to sort of go your own way a little bit as well. Indeed,
do some of your own work and use the ratings in those spreadsheets that you send out as a guide.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Yep. So that's the key bit. They can tailor it to their own desires in that way.
That's great. Okay, well, thanks for that, Cameron. And
all right, all good.
Okay, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Bye.
Bye.